All right, let's talk about the massive engines of our digital lives, data centers. They power everything, from your favorite streaming service to the AI tools that are changing our world. But here's the thing, their explosive growth has become this new Wild West, pitting big tech against local communities. Today, we're going to break down how Minnesota totally flipped the script.
And it all starts with a simple fact that honestly is pretty easy to ignore. Every single click, every search, every video you watch, it all has a physical footprint, a hidden cost that we're really only now starting to face.
And that's the secret right there. See, the internet isn't just some magical cloud. It's a massive network of actual buildings jam-packed with servers. And man, are they thirsty. They consume incredible amounts of power and water, and they're straining our grids and resources like never before.
Okay, so let's dive right into this dilemma. How in the world do we balance our non-stop demand for data with the very real, on-the-ground impacts these facilities have?
Yeah, all across the country, it's the same story. A tech giant announces plans for a shiny new data center, and bam, it's met with immediate pushback. And you can't really blame folks, because for the longest time, there were hardly any rules about how these giant projects were built, or, who paid for their impact.
Just look at Pine Island, Minnesota. When Google proposed a new facility there, a local group formed almost overnight, and they were asking some pretty basic but totally crucial questions. How much water is this thing going to use? What's it going to do to our air? And the big one, is this massive energy hog going to make our electricity bills skyrocket? But this is where the story in Minnesota takes a really fascinating turn. Before the deal was even inked, the state decided, you know what? We're done playing catch up. We're getting ahead of this. So they built a whole new framework. The state legislature passed this landmark bill, and the message was super simple. Hey, if you want to build a data center here, you're going to have to play by a new set of rules. The goal was pretty clear: protect residents from the costs and make sure the state's ambitious clean energy targets didn't get derailed. And it's the specifics of this law that really matter. I mean, these aren't suggestions, they are hard requirements. And the biggest rule change, the absolute game changer, developers now have to pay for their own electricity and any grid upgrades they require. No more passing those costs on to regular folks. That one single rule, it completely changed the negotiating table.
So that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? With these new rules of the road in place, what does a deal actually look like now? Could a tech giant and a utility actually figure out a way to build a huge project that, benefits everyone?
And the answer, it turns out, was a huge yes. The agreement between Google and the local utility, Xcel Energy, it didn't just get the project approved, it basically created a whole new model. Let's break down how this thing became a win-win-win. The new dynamic is actually brilliantly simple. Google pays for everything, 100% of its electricity costs and 100% of the grid upgrades. In return, the utility, Xcel Energy, gets to build a ton of new clean energy to meet its state goals. But the most important part, Minnesota ratepayers are completely shielded. Their bills don't go up 1 cent because of this. And the scale of this new clean energy, it's just staggering. We're talking about 1,900 megawatts. To put that into perspective for you, that's enough new carbon-free power for hundreds of thousands of homes. And it's all paid for by the single new customer that needs it. So here's how it breaks down. The whole project is funded through something called a clean energy tariff, basically a special rate that Google pays. That charge is building a portfolio that's mostly wind and solar. But what I want you to focus on is that third slice, 300 megawatts of energy storage. Because that piece of the puzzle, it isn't just big, it's a technological game changer.
Yeah, we're not talking about the standard lithium-ion batteries that are in your phone or your EV. Nope. Minnesota, Xcel, and Google, they all decided to invest in something brand spanking new, something that could solve one of the biggest challenges for renewable energy. What they're building is a massive iron-air battery system from a company called Form Energy. And this system, it can store and discharge power for not 4 hours, but for 100 hours. This is what the industry calls long-duration storage. And its whole purpose is to solve that nagging problem with renewables, right? The intermittency problem. What do you do when the wind isn't blowing or the sun isn't shining for days at a time? Well, this technology is the answer. It's how you make sure the grid stays reliable 24/7. I love this comparison because it just makes it all click. A standard lithium-ion battery is a sprinter. It gives you a huge burst of power for a few hours and then it's gassed. But this iron-air battery? Oh man, it's a marathon runner. We're talking steady, reliable power for over 4 days straight. And the other benefits are just as huge. It's made from abundant stuff: iron, air, water. It costs a tiny fraction of what lithium-ion does, and, a big one here, it doesn't carry that same fire risk.
So what does 300 megawatts of storage for 100 hours actually mean in the real world? It means this single project will have a capacity of 30 gigawatt hours. That is enough energy to power a major city for several hours. This literally makes it the largest battery project by energy capacity announced anywhere in the world. It is a massive, massive leap forward.
So when you put all of this together, the smart legislation, making sure costs are paid fairly, and investing in incredible new technology, you just have to ask, is this the model for everyone else? And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. As former U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said, states take note, this is how data center siting should be done. I mean, she praised it as a model for how to benefit the company, the utility, and the customers. So let's just quickly recap the blueprint that Minnesota created here. It's really 4 simple steps. 1, you create the guardrails before the gold rush starts. 2, you make sure it's fair by making the biggest new users pay their own way. 3, you use that huge new demand to actually boost the entire clean energy grid. And 4, you innovate. You use these projects to deploy breakthrough technology.
And the results, well, they really speak for themselves. This isn't just about one data center. It's about a much smarter way to grow. This approach brings jobs and tax revenue to the community of Pine Island, all while building a stronger, cleaner, and way more reliable grid that benefits the entire state.
You see, by setting clear rules first, Minnesota turned what could have been a huge conflict into a landmark collaboration. They managed to tame the Wild West and showed all of us that our digital growth doesn't have to come at the expense of local communities or our climate goals. So the only question left is, who's going to use this blueprint next?